My friend Dr. Kevin Most and your friend Dr. Kevin Most joins us now. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all doing?
You know, I woke up this morning, I felt like a truck hit me. And it's weird because I didn't have the same thing from the daylight savings time stuff yesterday. And I don't know what it was today. I don't feel like, the sheep that I was counting in the middle of the night kicked me. I don't know what it was. But I just woke up and felt like exceptionally tired.
Did you go to sleep at the same time?
I never go to sleep at the same time. That's
Really?
Yeah. I mean, within a 30-minute window, I suppose.
Okay, well, that's close enough.
That's good.
Okay.
I mean, right now, that's the biggest thing, that your body's just not ready to sleep because it's based on when the sun sets. And for you guys go to sleep pretty quickly after the sun sets. So it usually should impact individuals like you more. So kind of surprising it didn't hit you yesterday, but it's hitting you today. But it'll sort itself out here in the next 4 or 5 days.
Well, you know how it is when you get a good workout in, and the first day you feel pretty good, and the second day your muscles go, "What the hell did you do to me?"
Yeah.
Sleep doesn't work that way, huh?
Yeah. No. Sleep really is a matter of almost immediacy. It's like, okay, if I had a bad night's sleep, I wake up in the morning, I'm feeling tired that day, and it really drags through that day. So, it's the cumulative effect of sleep, but also more importantly, the day-to-day effect of sleep.
But you can't make up for lost sleep on the weekends like people think they can.
Exactly, Jane. People think that all the time. Well, I'm going to catch up on all my sleep this weekend, and you cannot do that. Certainly, you can rest better on the weekends and probably get a little bit better for feeling good on the weekends, but it's not like, I'm 3 hours down, I'm going to sleep 3 more hours, and therefore my body's going to be back to normal, and that's not the case at all.
All right, so specifically to daylight savings time, and to me, this is an argument to leave it alone and lock it in, full for the same time all year long. We know statistically it's more dangerous to drive the day after, that people do feel worse, but are there lingering impacts from it?
No, it's that short term. We know about the health impacts as far as cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes. We're not really still trying to figure out why that happens. We know the body is more stressed for that first week, but then it tapers back to normal as we get to normal. And then really it is going to be that sleep pattern. Car accidents, people that used to drive at a time when there was no sun in their eyes, now they're, starts to have sun in their eyes. Well, if that happens over a period of a month, that's one thing. But now, if it happens at a sudden change, now it's a bigger difference. So, but really it is. It's that waking up in dark, going to sleep in dark, that we see during the winter, that has changed now, right? We're waking up in dark, but now the light is staying on so much longer into the evening that it's impacting our ability to fall asleep easier in the evening and then actually stay asleep.
I always feel a little bit more awake when the sun is up longer or just when it's sunny out. And that's just because it's sunny out and has to do with that seasonal affective disorder. Sun's out, sun's up, you're up. You're happy and it's giving you all that vitamin D that you need.
Absolutely, Jane. It's two things there. One is when we wake up in the dark, our senses are still a little bit dullened, right? You won't look out the window right now, whether it's dark or whether it's daylight. The senses are two totally different things. So, one, you're seeing more things, your body's thinking, you're more active, your mind is more active when it's light out. And like you said, getting that vitamin D is so important at this time of the year.
A couple of more listener questions here. Doc, 59 years old, getting my second colonoscopy since age 50. No issues. Never had a prostate exam. My blood work is excellent, PSA and all. Should I be getting the prostate checked at this point?
No, it's very interesting and great that he noted that his doctor did not do that. The prostate exam, the physical prostate exam, has gone away. We found that the benefit of that and finding something is so low that really we're now going on the PSA test and symptoms. So it's good news and bad news. It's one less thing we have to check for prostate cancer. But it's one that if you say, my doctor didn't do that, he's not a good doctor. No, your doctor didn't do that, and he is a good doctor because it's been shown that is part of the exam does not give us much benefit. That being said, certainly watching that.
Nope. Oh, he's getting his prostate checked right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
All right, we'll dial Doc back.
Yep.
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I mean, prostate exam? I don't know.
You're pro prostate?
I mean, you don't know.
It can
Go
do
back
weird
there.
things there like that.
So, Doc, were we talking about the Chevy Chase Moon River Fletch prostate exam is the one that they're not doing anymore?
Exactly. That is exactly it. And believe me, there's a lot of studies going on because prostate cancer is so prevalent in men that we need to have a better either marker, whether it be a blood test, whether it be another exam that we can do. We don't want to be doing CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasounds on men all the time for this, but we need a better screening test. So we have to figure out what that's going to be. And believe me, there's a lot of people looking at what can we find in the blood that's going to be an indicator that's going to show us that prostate cancer is present or that it is going to be present.
That's a good question in the 608. I travel to the East Coast twice a month, 1 hour difference each way. I ought to be dead.
Yeah.
Well, why is that different than the twice a year time change?
That's a great question.
Well, yeah, and I would ask that individual, do they feel an impact there? When they do it on a regular basis, they probably get used to it, so the body is not shocked as it is for the rest of us, where it's a gradual thing and then all of a sudden a shock. Is his body now in tuned to that and preparing for it? Or I would bet you if he said, hey, the weeks that I don't have to go, I feel better. But absolutely, you think about people that travel to the West Coast, to the East Coast on a regular basis for work, the impact on their health should be felt more, but really isn't. It's kind of interesting.
Randy says, does magnesium help tinnitus?
Well, you know what? There's so many. I can't say yes. I can't say no. The bad thing about tinnitus, and individuals who don't know what tinnitus means, it's constant ringing in the ears or ringing in the ears that kind of comes and goes. The bad thing about tinnitus is it can be chronic and it can be so frustrating. So we really try to find more cures for it, but we don't find that there's one simple thing that does it. It's not like magnesium is going to fix it. Now, in some individuals, they may see an improvement with magnesium. Other people may see an improvement with other vitamins. So we really can't get our arms around it, and it's because it's that, I don't want to say subjective because you're actually hearing something, but we can't measure tinnitus. I can't look at you. I'll tell you an example. When I had my car accident, that airbag that went off in my left ear caused me to have tinnitus. Now, when I went to my doctor, he can't do a test to show that I have tinnitus. He can do a test to show that I have hearing loss, but tinnitus is a symptom that is understood by the body that a noise is coming and it's going into your brain from your ear, but you can't objectively measure it. So that's the hard part. If we can't objectively measure it, how do we find treatments for it that show that, yes, it absolutely works? So in this individual, a magnesium supplement may help, but it's not like everybody with tinnitus should run out and get magnesium.
And it may work for you, it may not work for somebody else doing the same thing.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. We got to talk about Wegovy. We got to talk about an over-the-counter birth control pill that's been approved, and a few more things to get to.
I'd love to ask about the measles.
And the measles.
Maybe.
Yeah, Jane's got the measles. She just got them a second ago. Stand by for that. And she wants to know how long her husband will be needing her to bring him soup. He's coming out of meniscus surgery right now. There's more with Doc in a moment. Here is continue with Dr. Kevin Most. Our pal Dave in Crystal Lake says, is it normal if the time change doesn't affect you? Is that normal?
That's a good question.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure it's normal, but some people just don't have that big of an impact, and it depends again on when you're waking up and when you're going to sleep. So, it didn't impact me that much, but then again, I went to bed when I wanted to and got up when I wanted to.
It's a new schedule you're on. All right, Dr. Most, let's talk about Wegovy. You called this, you got to be old enough to appreciate the reference, but Karnak the Mostian here, you called that, a month ago or more, when you said there's news coming about Wegovy and maybe the other weight loss drugs about positive impact on heart health.
Sounds like a miracle drug.
Jane and Steve, it does. And it's almost too good to be true, I guess, is the biggest thing that we start to think about here. But if everybody remembers, Wegovy was originally a drug for diabetes, for type 2 diabetes. And what that did is it controlled your sugar, allowed you to slowly eat less. And what they did during that study, looking at it for diabetes, and said, wow, wait a second, we're seeing people lose substantial amount of weight. So then they said, well, we're going to start a study with another 17,000 people that don't have diabetes. They're just overweight and have heart disease, and see what the impact is there. And this study the results were just released after 5 years. Amazing. And the FDA acted on it pretty quickly to say, hey, you know what, we have to put this out there. We have to give it an approval. Because if everybody remembers, when this drug first came out, it was only for diabetes. People were using it for weight loss, what we call off-label. In other words, a person didn't have diabetes but was obese, and their doctor would give it to them just to lose weight. What the FDA has said now is it's approved for diabetes, it's approved for obesity, and now it's approved for individuals who have high risk of cardiovascular disease. So if you're obese and have a risk of cardiovascular disease, which almost goes hand in hand, this drug would now be approved for you. So it's unbelievable that a drug that was designed to treat diabetes is now going to be used in this fashion to potentially treat heart disease, which is the number one cause of death in the United States.
Well, since we know personal injury attorneys are in the starting gate at all times, explain why it's okay for this drug now, and do we know enough? Because science, the ultimate truth about science is you know what you know and you know it, and you might not know the same thing down the road. Long-term side effects, things of that nature. How do you measure the risk of that with all the good news coming here?
Yeah, you're spot on there, too. Are we going to find out something down the road that this causes some XYZ disease or cancer? Boy, it's possible. But someone is going to still put those scales up and say, okay, yeah, if we did this and it impacts heart disease and we saved 1 million lives here, but we had 3 people that got cancer, where's the balance there? And is it now just a risk that you say, if you take this, you do have an increased chance of cancer. However, you do have a much lower risk of heart disease.
There'd be a long line.
That balance is going to be the tipping point.
What about cost?
Well, the cost is still up there, and they're going to try to recoup as much of this cost as they can. But still, it's if you look at it and you say, hey, the cost of this, whether it's $6,000 a year, whatever it is right now, where it's going to come down to is big. The bigger part there, Steve, is not the out-of-pocket cost, is now will insurance companies look at it and say, wait a second, I'm going to cover this drug for heart disease. So I'm going to cover this drug for that individual who's obese, who has a heart or a chance for cardiovascular complications. I'm going to go ahead and cover it. So the cost will be, much less out of pocket.
Yeah, and when one of the major insurers do it, the others will jump in. So that is interesting because it would be siloed, categoried. Right. And it could be the dam that breaks. All right, what's the other news, Jane?
Well, birth control pills have finally been approved for over-the-counter. I feel like we've been talking about this as something for 20 years, and like every other country is already doing it.
You're right, Jane. There's over 100 countries where individuals can go into any pharmacy and buy over-the-counter birth control pills. And the United States has been, like you said, we've been in discussion with it for decades. And it was just approved. As a matter of fact, it'll be available next week or later this week.
Wow.
Either online or in the pharmacy. They've already shipped it. So it's interesting that, and it's coming back with some pushes and some pulls as we didn't do this fast enough, or we still have some hesitancy of why we're doing it. But certainly it's big news knowing that this finally is going to occur here in the United States.
Well, let me ask you this, too, because all birth control pills are not the same formulas. So does one pill fit every person, or is it specifically, that it becomes different doses over the counter?
Correct. And that's probably the biggest concern of this one right now. This one is a single hormone, progestin. So a bad thing I would say about it is it has to be taken at the same time every single day. If you miss it by 3 hours, the effectiveness of it, one dose, if you miss the effectiveness of one dose by 3 hours, the effectiveness drops dramatically.
Wow.
So it's not the panacea of this is a great drug and this is what's going to, you have to be understand that. And individuals that have had breast cancer or have breast cancer, they cannot use this drug because of the impact of the hormone on the breast tissue. So it's a good first step, and it's not a new drug. That's what people have to understand. This drug has been out there for decades. So the testing of the drug has worked. It's just that it's not as ideal as some of the other drugs, as Jane was mentioning.
So probably talk to your doctor first.
As in all things, right?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I mean, it's one of the reasons that we're doing this is because you look, there's 20 million people that essentially live in areas where they don't have access to a doctor that routinely or that easily. And 8 million people, 8 million women of childbearing age are uninsured, so they can't have the ability to go to the doctor. And this is a drug that's inexpensive. We're talking $20 a month.
Wow.
So there's some of those individuals where they would like to be on birth control pills. They can't afford to have a child at this time of their life, and yet they can't afford to go to the doctor and can't afford the prescription medication to help with that.
Before we go, smart mouth guards. We're about a minute away from NFL free agency, so a little thought on football this morning, but this is a rugby discovery?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a company that came out of the Cleveland Clinic, and we've talked in the past, and we should probably have another talk about concussions. You're starting to see more individuals CTE, whether they be military, but they're mainly sports. And what we do in the NFL right now is we have people that sit up in the skyboxes, and they're called spotters, and they're looking for impact that may have been bad enough for a concussion, and then they're calling it down to the field. What this is, it's a mouth guard that measures the impact of every hit. So now you get two things. You get the immediate impact of how bad was that hit. A football play might go, the ball's on the left side of the field, and there's a bad hit on the right side of the field that people don't notice. So really it's looking at what's the cumulative effect of this, how strong are these? So it's objective data, not me looking to say, boy, that looked like a heavy hit. And it's also going to continue to give you that information in real time. So one of the biggest things they look at is every minute that a person plays with a concussion adds about a week to the recovery. So you have a concussion and it's not noted and you stay in the game, it's going to take you a week. Think about how many times that happens in the NFL and the NHL right now.
Sure.
A lot.
Yeah, a ton.
The games will be over. I mean, they'll get rid of them because so many hits.
Well, I don't know a single guy that played high school football that didn't have at least one concussion.
And continued to play with it.
Sure.
Yeah. It's so many sports.
Mm-hmm.
And you make the biggest point. These things are not going to be inexpensive. And the elite players that do get to the NFL or play professional rugby, think about all the other kids, like you were saying, they're playing junior football, high school football, college football, and then not making it to the pros. What disservice have we done to them and their brains during this time if we're not monitoring it?
It's Dr. Kevin Most, and we appreciate your time always. It's 70 degrees and sunny here. I know you're on the road, but you should come home quickly because it's going to get cold by the end of the week.
Perfect. Right when I get home.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Doc.
You got it, guys. We'll talk soon.
There you go.
Doc.
That's good information. And good
Always.
questions, you listeners.
Yeah, great
Feel free to
questions.
send them in every week.